So today we're going to do probably a pretty short video. I don't know if you guys have been following the socials, but this beautiful blue Vogue Royal P, and it needs two rollers. I just installed the brand new Platen, but I'm also going to be redoing the front two paper bale rollers, as well as the rear feed roller, and hopefully within about 5 minutes, we can make a quick video about all of that. And that is, of course, 5 minutes with a lot of intense editing. So, let me show you the materials we're going to be needing. First of all, I like to have a pair of MIG pliers, as well as, and I'm looking for it now, a nice sharp blade. We're also going to have 2 sets of tubing. Let's grab the calipers that I just got off of Amazon because I've been in desperate need of new calipers, and unfortunately these are not in metric. These are actually in freedom units, so we'll see what we can get there. Now, to avoid all the weird autofocus issues, we're just going to be using manual focus, like always. So the inner diameter of these, the tubing that I'll be using for the bale rollers looks to be about 0.219 inches, which is, I think, about 8 millimeters. So, you know, that should be good enough. The main thing I look at specifically for bale rollers, and see if we can get you guys a little closer here. I want there to be a large enough opening that I can jam the core of the actual roller in there, and the outer diameter will stretch out a little bit to fill that. The diameters of bale rollers aren't critical, so I'm not terribly worried about being slightly off. And then I'll just very carefully use the radius cutting grip parts of whatever of the MIG pliers to get that rubber off. And you know, the reason stuff takes long is because I can't find my tools. So bear with me a moment. It also might help to have a knife of some sort on hand just to kind of crack all that off. And I have melted styrofoam all over this one, I know. That's all right, though. Getting the old rubber off is the worst part. Doing a good job makes the rest of the work afterwards easier. Doesn't have to be perfect, especially on the bale rollers, so we'll just go ahead and trim the rest of that off. I wanted this to be a quick and easy video, so we're not going to be pulling out the macro lens or anything fancy. Mostly because I'm a really lazy person. But there's our cleaned up core. And then we're going to chop off a nice length of hosing. Now, a lot of people will try and get it an exact match, but I'll actually cut a fair bit extra on both of them. And there is some material waste, but this helps give you the best finish afterwards. So we'll just kind of twist that into place and shove the rubber down onto the core. And if we can get it to overhang a little bit on either side, then we have a great surface to start trimming. And the most important part of making a good quality bale roller is the trimming. So we'll just jam this a little bit more down. So hopefully we can see this. We have a little bit of excess on both sides. And at that point we can take a very sharp blade and just trim off the excess just like that, and we have a wonderfully smooth finish. Now, it can take a little bit of practice to get the perfect cut, but if you have a nice, fresh, sharp blade, you can create a bale roller that looks almost brand new. So yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, just a little bit of care. And we'll go ahead and do that with the second one. We'll jam it onto the rubber core. It's a little bit tricky. And I do like to stick it down onto the work surface and just press the rubber down on from the top. It's always the worst part, just getting that nice and flush. And then using the end of my pliers to kind of shove it in just that rest of the way so we get overhang of the rubber on all sides of the roller. And you can kind of work it on there to just stretch it around a little bit. And from there, we can go ahead and give the roller a little bit of a spin as we trim off that extra rubber. And here I got a little bit too much extra, so I'll cut off the end so I get it closer to the edge of the core. And then just hold it nice and steady as we trim off that little bit of excess. And there we go, our second roller. So I'll move the camera back a bit. Just look up at this beautiful typewriter, and we'll get these rollers installed. Now the bar for the paper bale does have a flat spot, and usually what I like to do is I'll place the center core into, we'll get that center core into the paper bale roller, and then we'll put the spring in there as well. You do not want to forget the spring. The spring is a very important part of the roller, and we'll get that down there so it's resting flat on the bottom on both sides, and then we will hold it down with the end of the paper bale roller as we jam that into place. So I'll repeat that quickly with the other roller. Get the core in, get the spring in so it's flat, and then carefully align that with the flat spot of the paper bale rod. And then this part is keyed so it will snap into place. The next step is to, of course, locate the screw that you were supposed to carefully set aside and not lose. And, oh, here it is. We'll use our screw starter, which you also set down carefully and not lose. No, I could have sworn it was right in front of me. And then we can just go ahead and tighten down our bale screw. Come in with the hollow ground screwdriver so we don't cam out the screw, and just tighten that down. And then we have two gorgeous, brand new looking paper bale rollers. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd say those are factory new. So of course I also wanted to go in here before the machine is considered done, and I want to replace the rear feed roller. So replacing the rear feed roller is a very similar process, but it's a little bit more difficult to get longer lengths of rubber onto the core. So we'll just pull the Platen real quick. Pull those out. Get the Platen rod out from the right side. We'll lift it up on the ends. Make sure we don't lose the detent collar. Then we will grab another screwdriver and take out the two screws that hold in the paper tray and set those aside. 1 and 2. And then we can pop it out from the back, lift up, and we have access to our rear feed roller. Now this feed roller is still nice and supple, which is why I didn't replace it at the first point. But I do want to make sure that this machine is as new and nice as possible, so we'll come over here to the parts drawer where I will pull out, well, this one's also kind of nice. I know I have a crappy feed roller in here somewhere. One of these is better than the other. I mean, I don't want to waste a nice soft feed roller. Let's go harvest one from maybe a different machine. All right, we got our perfect candidate here now. This is a slightly damaged rear feed roller. It's a little bit shorter cut than all of the other ones, which is odd. And even though it is still supple, that is not acceptable. So we will cut the old rubber off of this one, and now we could probably, since it is still semi-soft rubber, it does have a flat spot on it, very carefully cut that all the way off with our soft blade. We just slowly push down. Try not to injure yourself as you do this. Other types of rubber might be more difficult to decore, especially if it's a lot harder. So we'll just actually go and run another slice off of this. Oops, and that's gone onto the floor. We'll just shave it off. Now, it is more important on the feed rollers that you are accurate in cleaning off all of the old rubber, because we do not want any unround portions of the feed rollers, because that leads to uneven paper feeding. Just double checking that I'm recording. And as you can see, this is a messy process. So we'll shave that cord down nicely. Get all that old rubber off. And then I'll rub it on my pants or something just to get the loose crumbles out. And then we can take in our replacement rubber. Now, it's very important to carefully match the inner and outer diameters of the rubber that you're using. And as always, I'm actually going to cut this about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch longer than what I actually need, so I have that extra room to work with. Now, I know for a fact, and I have measured this over the years, that this rubber is the identical outer diameter and inner diameter. And when you are ordering rubber tubing, it is common that you're only going to get the inner diameter, but for automotive vacuum hosing, the standard wall thickness is about 3 millimeters. So yeah, this is an exact match, and I've been using the same rubber hosing for almost 9 years. And after that, we can just slip it down in there. Sometimes talc powder will help with this, but for the most part, it's just a lot of brute force to get it on there. So I actually got to stop this and wrestle with it. Now, I'm not going to lie, there are going to be many points in getting rubber on an old core where you feel like giving up, because it is going to blister your hands, and it's going to take way more effort than you ever thought you would ever expend on a typewriter. But once you get one of your flat edges to be the perfect distance from the end, and you have excess on the other side, you know you're good to go. So, if I can focus back over here, we're going to lay our roller flat down and trim to the end of the pivot. And from there, we can kind of estimate just how far down we need to cut. And if you want to be accurate, you can take your calipers and just kind of make a measurement mark where it should be. And then we're just going to take our blade and stick it straight down on the edge of the roller and roll with the entire roller all the way around until that ring little pops off, or that little ring of rubber pops off. We can do tiny bits of trimming if we need to after the fact, but then we have a nice smooth end on the other side. And that is how you get a very nice brand new feed roller. So I'll swivel the camera back around. Can we boost it up? Boost it up. And then we're ready to install. Our front feed rollers are good. We'll put the rear one back in place, along with our paper tray. It'll clip right in there. Then we'll grab our screw starter and the 2 countersunk retention screws for the paper tray. We'll stick those both in there. And then come back in with the normal screwdriver just to tighten them up a dot. And then comes our platen and the platen collar. We'll stick those on, push it down so it's snug and flat against the end of the platen. We'll remove our ratchet detent, or disengage that, slide the entire platen in, get our platen rod into the side there, get that all the way through, and then we can attach the 2 platen set screws. Some of them only have 1, some of them have 2. We'll start them with our screw starter. Both of them. Oops. I know I'm probably blocking view of the camera, but it's more important that I get this thing in. Come on, there we go. And then I will always, of course, tighten those two up with an actual screwdriver. We'll put our ratchet detent back on, test everything's going good, and then come in with our left-hand Platen knob, making sure we're lining up that set screw with the flat spot on the end shaft of the Platen. And that's how we do it. Brand new fresh rubber on a Royal Model P, start to finish. And let's get a type sample in on that. Of course, the best thing about this particular typewriter, you'll see in a moment. It's Vogue. And we're done. Looks like my ribbon is a little bit splotchy, but yeah. Here we go. The end.